Today we're going to be exploring how does labor begin, when to recognize labor. Hello and welcome back to One Ritual, a channel where we explore evidence-based and alternative approaches to wellness, body, and birth. So many of us have this idea that labor begins how it does in the movies or television. Suddenly there's this gush on the floor.
Angie, I think your water broke.
Everyone's racing around, you're calling the ambulance or running to the car.
Taxi!
In my experience, it's actually the opposite. It's usually very calm. Sometimes it's very unnoticeable when your water releases. And there's various ways that it can happen. So first, I just want to briefly explain what labor is, and then I'll talk about how to recognize it. Labor is a communication between the baby and the mother. When the baby has descended enough that it's putting pressure on the cervix, a signal is sent to the mother's brain to release more of a certain hormone, and that is what starts the contractions. Second, labor is also a transition that the mother is going through from self to mother. So there is an emotional component to this process. Third, labor is also a period of time that prepares the mother's body for the actual birth. Typically, it's a longer period of time so that the muscles, the uterus, the pelvis has time to adapt to this process. This is why trying to induce labor or make it happen more quickly can be a big shock to the system. So now that you understand the basics of what labor is, I'll talk about the ways that it can begin. So first, your water can release. When the baby's head has put enough pressure on the cervix and the bottom of the amniotic sac, that will typically open the sac up to release the water. And by no means does this signal that you should leave for the hospital. You still want your contractions to pick up and begin. Second, losing your mucus plug. That could just mean that your cervix has thinned enough that the plug has released and your body is getting ready to start labor. Third, finding bloody show in your underwear. Bloody show is a pink to red discharge that most women get as their cervix begins to thin. If you see bright red blood flow like a period, that is a reason to head directly to the hospital. Fourth, having mild contractions. They can start out spaced anywhere from 20 to 10 minutes apart. And then as they build 10 minutes to 8 minutes apart to 5 minutes apart, your labor is continuing to progress. You're not really in active real labor until your contractions are 3 minutes apart for at least an hour. So if it's the middle of the night and they're 10 minutes apart, 20 minutes apart, just try to go back to sleep as active labor has not begun. And the fifth and final way that labor typically begins is by experiencing vomiting or diarrhea. So when labor is starting up, prostaglandins, which is a hormone, softens the bowels and causes women to have maybe 2 or 3 bouts of diarrhea. This is a way to empty out the body and create space for the baby. The surge of estriol, or a form of estrogen, is what causes the nausea or vomiting that you might have experienced earlier on in the pregnancy. These are all good signs, although sometimes uncomfortable, but now you know these are the different ways that labor can begin. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe, and share. And please share your stories of how your labor began in the comments below.